A front-page investigation this morning by the New York Times dives into the compounding crises that plagued Facebook over the last year, involving Russian interference and privacy breaches. Based on interviews of more than 50 people, including Facebook employees and lawmakers, the Times details how some top executives attempted to right the company's wrongs while creating other problems in the process. The Times reports that while Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg said publicly it was a, quote, crazy idea that Facebook had anything to do with deciding the 2016 election, security experts at the company knew otherwise. The Times found that Facebook gathered evidence of Russian activity as early as spring 2016 before executives opted to share what they knew with the public and even with their own board of directors. When the company finally came forward with that information, it reportedly sought to deflect blame and mask the extent of the problem. While Zuckerberg apologized in public, Facebook's chief operating officer, Sheryl Sandberg, allegedly was on a different mission: to combat the company's private foes in private. The social networking site allegedly hired a Republican opposition research firm to depict billionaire liberal donor George Soros as the force behind a broad anti-Facebook movement. They also were behind publishing stories that praised Facebook while criticizing Google and Apple on a conservative news site. Let's bring in one of the reporters behind this sweeping front page piece, political writer for the New York Times and MSNBC political analyst Nicholas Confessori. Also with us, Fortune Magazine's senior editor-at-large Lee Gallagher. Guys, good morning. Nick, your piece, front page, for you, what's at the center of this? What's the big headline takeaway?
This is a big takeaway and a big look into a business that spans the globe, has reshaped politics, the advertising business, and daily life, but works in ways we're still coming to grips with and which they are still coming to grips with. This is a company that knew there were things going on with this information as early as 2016, but didn't even tell their own board or the public what they knew until the fall of 2017, when the damage was already done in the 2016 election. And back then, Facebook hadn't even had any policy internally on what to do if they found this kind of thing. So it shows how they tried to come to grips with the machine they built and didn't quite understand themselves.
So what did they find in early 2016? What were the red flags that should have been communicated up the chain?
So what they found were some early signs that there were Russian people or Russian agents that were using accounts to try to get into the accounts of Democratic policymakers and leaders. And it progressed from there. There were later signs that Facebook accounts were being used to try to spread hacked information from the Democratic Party. And from there, it went on to disinformation and trolls and bots and all the other problems we've heard about over the years.
Joe?
You know, Nick, what's so surprising is, and it starts in the first paragraph, it starts in the lead of your story, and that is that every time there was an executive at Facebook that tried to right wrongs, it seems in this story that Sheryl Sandberg was seething. Sheryl Sandberg got angry. She was angry when the board was finally told what the truth was, when an executive began and started investigating the interference of Russian agents' interference in the democratic process. And she was lashing out at people who were trying to be transparent a year later.
It's really amazing, Joe. I mean, this problem was bubbling up under the surface. They tried to get a handle on it, but for a very long time, through the election and well after, it seems that Sandberg's main concern and that of other executives was to contain the damage to Facebook and not to contain the damage to our democracy. That was their focus. When the problem finally got so big and they realized how big it was, they admitted a piece of it and then had to revise and say, you know, it's actually worse than that and worse than that. So we see this slow drip. It's been very damaging to the company, as you know.
Well, and Lee Gallagher, what do you do? What does a corporation do? I mean, the answer actually seems pretty easy. This is a terrible scandal for Facebook. It interferes with American democracy. And you have someone at the top of the food chain in a corporation that did everything she could do to keep the truth from the board, to keep the truth from Americans, and would lash out at others inside of Facebook that actually were trying to get answers to how much the Russians did interfere in Facebook and, by extension, in our democracy. Who survives that?
Yeah, Joe, it is a really, I mean, the allegations and what Nick and the team found here are really, damning. And but this is a complicated question because Mark Zuckerberg controls 60% of the voting shares of Facebook. One of the best examples of how founders are controlling their companies these days. Everyone seems to think he is going to stay. Nick, my question to you is that still the case? Because this has come up over and over again. Today, do you think that's still the case? I mean, it's very hard for that not to be the case because of his control of the company. And what do you think will be the fallout here in terms of the two of them running the company?
It's a great question. Look, he picked Sheryl Sandberg essentially to manage the outside world, keep the government off their backs, and make money. And Facebook has done those things pretty well for a long time.
I mean, the profit hit a record this year.
But here's the real issue. The same machine they've built that makes them so much money, which is having all this data about you and to know everything about you and what you want to read, is also what makes Facebook an amazing machine for spreading hate and propaganda. It's two sides of the same coin. So their business model in some place is implicated here, and that's the trouble. It's hard to figure out. It's a hard problem to solve, by the way. It's hard to figure out how they can get rid of the bad stuff without undermining their own business.
All right, everybody sit tight here. We're going to continue this conversation. We've only scratched the surface on this huge New York Times front page expose. We'll be right back on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.